It's not that we are not educated, it's that we are miseducated.
Hello and welcome to a new episode of the Peter O. Estévez Show. This is your host, Peter O. Estévez. Today, we have an incredible entrepreneur that owns and operates 7 privately held companies, a private equity real estate firm, Cardone Capital, with assets of over $2.6 billion with the B billion dollars. He is one of the top world crowdfunders, raising over $650 million via social media. He's featured on season 2 of the Discovery Channel Undercover Billionaire, where he takes a challenge to build $1 million business in 90 days. He is New York Times bestselling author of over 11 books, including the 10X Rules, which led to 10X Global Movement and the 10X Conference, now the largest business entrepreneur and business conference in the world. Hello, Mr. Grant Cardone. Welcome to the Peter O. Estévez Show.
Yeah, Peter, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Grant, it's so good to see you, and it's incredible. You know, the very first time I came across you was in 2017, and I can remember it as if it was yesterday. I was on a flight from Mexico City to Houston. The oil industry had just crashed, and you were on Lewis House's podcast. And at the time, your fund, your equity fund, was at $200 million. Okay,
Yeah.
4 years ago. And actually, Lewis challenged you to take that to, you said, he asked you, where are you going to be in 5 years? You said at $1 billion. And Lewis said, why not 2 billion, Grant? And here we are today, 4 years later, and you're at 2.5 billion with a B dollars.
Yeah. And the crazy thing is by the end of this year, we'll be at almost $4 billion.
Wow. Congratulations, Grant. You've done some incredible things. And
yeah. Well, and we've helped a lot of people out. A lot of families are allowed to invest with alongside me, friends, family, partners. Real estate is, you know, Peter, has just been a great, tremendous vehicle to create wealth in, not just in the last decade, but in the last 1,000 years. This is one of many businesses that I own, but it's where all the money from the other companies, all that work that I do on the books, the conferences that you mentioned, I run and operate 9-10 companies right now. Any extra money that comes out of those businesses all goes into this real estate division because it protects my family against inflation. It protects my family and provides cash flow, passive income, tax write-offs. And when and if the day that I'm not around anymore to hustle and push and shove, that real estate will take care of my family, my kids, and my charity.
wow.
So we're really excited about that. And Lewis, I just want to say that the fact that you saw what Lewis did, that is the value of podcasts. And that's the value of listening to things like your viewership is getting that one little piece that causes somebody to act. So I'm hoping that your audience today hears one thing that you and I together come up with one thing that causes them to act. Because Lewis, that day when he challenged me, slightly nudged me, challenged me to be a better version of myself. So
Absolutely. And you definitely have 10X that ever since. There's no question about that. So
yeah.
you live in proof of your own creation of the 10X movement. You know, let's talk about the money myth, and then I want to get into your non-accredited fund that you just recently opened. But let's talk about the many myths about money that there is today, primarily in the lower tier of our population, the blue collar, the working class. The non-accredited fund that you just recently opened gives an opportunity with the slate of $1,000, but there's a lot of money myths around that. So let's talk about how was it that Grant Cardone went from being a car salesman to a multimillionaire today, running a multi-billion-dollar fund.
Yeah. So look, you know, if you are a good person, a hard worker, and you don't do stupid stuff with money, and you still don't have money, that means there's something wrong with your mindset with the game. And is my contention that most people are good, most people work hard, and most people do not spend like drunken sailors. Most people live well within their means. Most people will do a great job. They work their ass off, but they still don't have anything. Now, when I started researching the reality of, we live in one of the wealthiest countries in the world, and most people in this country have nothing to show for it. So I was like, wow, I became curious about that, Peter. And I was like, why are all these people, I mean, not everybody's out buying Richard Miles and Paddocks and jets and doing stupid stuff. Most of the people I know actually work there, they're doing the right stuff. I had this conversation with Lewis House, by the way. And Lewis is like, well, why do you think that most people don't end up with anything? He's like, because they don't make enough money, Grant. I said, no, it's not because they don't make enough money. When you have, in this country, we have 330 million people. 280 million of them are barely getting by.
Sure.
Massive. All these people aren't stupid. All these people aren't uneducated, and all these people not every one of these people is financially illiterate. So what's really happened? This is what I believe. It's not that we are not educated, it's that we are miseducated. And you talked about the money miss. We are taught to save money. That is a complete scam perpetuated by the banks to benefit the banks and Wall Street. We are taught to diversify. Okay. Wealthy people do not get wealthy diversifying. They invest in one thing, maybe two at the most. Elon Musk has 3 investments today. Steve Jobs had 2. Warren Buffett's first play was AIG. He had every penny he had in it. So if to get wealthy, you don't diversify and you don't save money. Third thing is, people talk about buying houses as an investment asset. It is not an investment asset. It is a complete liability. The SEC does not even count a house as part of your net worth calculation when determining whether or not you're an accredited investor or non-accredited. So those are just 3 examples. People work hard. Okay. The wealthy play a completely different game. They don't save their money. They invest it. They don't buy homes. They buy real estate that provides them with homes. They invest in things that get tax write-offs. They invest in things that cash flow, and they put all their money in one thing, not into 10,000 things. Last thing I'll say is this: ETFs, mutual funds, retirement accounts, 401ks, IRAs, they were built for Wall Street. They were not built for you. It's a complete scam. It's a hoodwink. Save for a rainy day just means that you're going to have a rainy day. Cash is trash. It is not king. Most of us were taught cash is king, and it's the holy grail. In God we trust. It's so many myths around this piece of paper. This is a piece of garbage. Okay. The most value it has is maybe you can light a cigar with it. But God's got nothing to do with it, even though God's on it. And the banks don't even like it. Neiman Marcus won't take it anymore. This is being destroyed. 40% of all the US dollars in circulation have been printed in the last 18 months. And people are spending time to save this when you shouldn't. You should use your time to get this and transfer it to real asset as fast as you can.
What is a real asset, Grant? What is a real asset?
So the first most important real asset is not the one people are going to tell me the thing you think I'm going to push people into, but the most real thing is yourself. Is my education, my spiritual development, my mental development, my physical development. The most important thing you guys can spend money on is yourself. I'm not talking about whiskey, weed, and women, okay, or men, or whatever your preference is. I'm talking about self-improvement, self-enhancement, self-awareness, your spirituality, anything you can do to invest in yourself to make yourself faster, quicker, and more confident. So that's number 1. 2 is you should invest in your business, whatever your business is. If you're a shoe salesman, you should invest in your shoe salesman business. Maybe you don't own the company, but you need to become a great salesman. Your prospecting list, your setup, anything to do with your business. Oh, by the way, both those first 2 things have something in common. They're tax deductible. Like, I never spend money if I can't write it off.
Wow.
If I can write it off, I'm going to spend it. If I can't write off, I'm gonna say, okay, do I really need this? So I'm gonna beat the tax man, because that's what wealthy people do. The middle class doesn't beat the tax man, they pay the tax man. Wealthy people pay nothing. And you guys may like or not like that, but that's the game. If you want to get wealthy, don't hate on the wealthy, emulate what they do. It's clear what they're doing. They're all doing the same thing. There's no Elon's not doing something different than Bill Gates. They're all playing identical games, and that's who I studied. So the third thing, me first, number two in my business, and the third thing I'm going to invest in is probably real property. Real property is my favorite because it has the biggest tax loopholes. It provides passive income. It appreciates over long periods of time, and it gets me leverage. It gets me leverage that I can't get through Bitcoin, ETFs, mutual funds, or the stock market.
Wow. So let's talk about some of the other assets that are people that have become very popular. And you talked about one, cryptocurrency, Bitcoin, NFTs. Robinhood was very popular a few years ago with many young investors out there. And you sort of created something similar when you went into the crowdfunding aspect of your business, when you were able to give the little guy an opportunity to invest as little as $1,000 into a major equity, real estate equity fund. Talk to us a little bit about that, and how is it that somebody can invest as little as $1,000, and how is that invested, and what kind of returns are they looking at? What is a long-term gain for someone like that?
Okay, so let me handle a couple questions here first, because you guys have so many different things you can invest in, right? What does $1,000 buy? It buys 3 shares of Apple Computer, maybe 3 shares of $1,000. It buys 3 shares of Facebook. $1,000 buys 1/64,000 or 1/64th of a Bitcoin. Ethereum, it'll buy 1/3 of an ETH. But look, those 4 things do not provide cash flow. In the beginning, as an investor, you need cash flow. Warren Buffett says, never lose money. Number 2 rule, never lose money. Don't forget the rule number 1. So the third thing is he only invests in things that provide positive cash flow. Now, this is really important, people, because like when I started getting my financial life together, I started looking at okay, when do I spend? When don't I spend? Because if you don't make that decision, you'll never have anything to invest. So I'm going to get to I'm going to talk about Cardone Capital.
Sure.
What I do, if I can earn this money, here's a stack of money. And let's say I earn this money, okay? And I earned this money because I went out and waited tables, or I was a bartender, and I get this cash. I will never spend any of this money beyond basic needs like housing, food, and water. That's it. Basic. I mean, nothing. Quality of living's garbage. I will only spend that much to live. The rest of it is going to be invested. So rather than changing my standard of living, I'm going to increase the quality of my investments. All my spending now is going to go to investing. Now, what do I invest in? I only invest and improve the quality of my life out of the passive income that comes from this money that was invested. So I earn this stack. I live on as little of it as I can. I invest the rest. And this investment, if it pays me $100, I can spend this on anything I want. So this is how I improve the quality of my life, my standard. I can spend all of this. I can waste it. I can go buy a stupid belt or a watch or a car or whatever, right? So the point there is only invest all your earned income and only spend passive income generated from your invested income. And so what we did was I buy these massive real estate complexes. And I started with 1 unit, then I did another unit, then I did 48 units, and then I did a 60 unit complex. Today we're buying this kind of asset, okay? 456 units. This property, I bought this property for $260 million. It's a $250 million asset. Now, why do I want to be in an asset that big? Is because when I sell that, I'm going to probably sell it to Prudential, New York Life, MetLife, Harvard University. These people have all the money in the universe.
Sure.
Blackstone, Goldman Sachs, JP Morgan. These are the richest people. These aren't rich people. These are trillion-dollar companies, without exaggeration. So what happens now is, rather than me getting the money from Goldman Sachs to buy this asset, I go to my friends, Lewis, Peter, my brother, sister, and all my audience on social media, and say, hey, rather than me getting money from the devil, the bank, rather than me getting money from people that are already rich, the family fund down the street, the millionaires, rather than me getting money from them, I'm going to put together a fund, and I'm going to give everybody a chance to be a partner with me on that deal and not deal with the devil. And what I mean by the devil, folks, is like when you do a deal with Blackstone or Goldman Sachs and they're your partner, they have total control.
Absolutely.
When Peter and I do a deal, me, Peter, Lewis, and 5,000 of my friends on social media, they don't bother me. They're appreciative. They're like, thank you, man. My legal fees go down. My costs go down. Everything gets better because they appreciate the opportunity to invest in a $250 million asset. And the banks, these big banks, they're not appreciative. They're going to be doing me a favor. So I created a fund. My lawyers told me not to do it. They said, the little guy's going to be a problem. I'm like, what do you mean, man? Have you forgotten where you came from? You're a little guy. You started as a little guy. I started as a little guy. And you and I, now you're charging me $600 an hour. And all of a sudden you forgot about the little guy. So I'm not going to forget about the little guy just because I made it. I'm going to help the little guy invest in trophy assets. This has never been done before, Peter, in the history of finance. The little guy, the everyday investor, has never got an opportunity to invest in a $1 billion real estate portfolio. These are always been saved for the wealthiest families and the wealthy institutions.
What kind of return are you looking at as an investor, as a young investor? You know, a Mr. and Mrs. Smith that has maybe $5,000 and, you know, are earning, you know.
So let me just use 10,000 because it's easier for me to calculate. Sure. I think $10,000 invested in that property right there will produce a 5 to 6% cash flow, which is phenomenal for a Class A property. Fort Lauderdale, hottest market in the country. But that's not the reason you're investing in the property. You're investing in it because I think this property returns a two times. 10,000 becomes 20, possibly 10,000 becomes $30,000. Better scenario than a double or a triple is you put $10,000 in this. My goal is not to sell the property and make a profit. My goal is to refinance the property at the 5-year mark, return your 10,000, and you still own a piece of that deal.
Wow.
So that is infinite return. I had a guy in here yesterday at $5 million. He's like, well, man, this doesn't even compare to Amazon. I said, bro, understand Amazon did 16,000% return if you got in the beginning. I said, if I do what I just told you and return your equity, and then you still get a cash flow for the next 10, 15, 20, 30 years, we're not talking about 16,000%. We're talking about 16,000% times 1,000.
Wow.
Because it's infinite. We're in the land of infinite, because if you don't have money in the deal anymore, plus the tax write-offs, okay, plus the passive income, plus you get to go to sleep at night and you don't have a piece of paper that says you own a stock. You can go visit this, you can go stay in this, you can go swim in the pool, you can work out at the gym. You can get out of your apartment, go downstairs, get on a kayak that we rent to the tenants there, and get in the Atlantic Ocean. Like this is monopoly, the monopoly game, but for real, and it's never been provided the everyday investor.
Tell us a little bit for the audience. What is a accredited and non-accredited investor, and where do you cap out in an investment like this?
Yeah. So the accredited, non-accredited is a arbitrary set by the SEC, probably by Wall Street, by the way. SEC is a Securities and Exchange Commission. You got to ask yourself who put them in charge, who's funding that activity. Everybody should ask that, by the way. Same reason you wouldn't want to know who's funding the WHO and the CDC and the FDA. Okay, so a little background here is a non-accredited investor makes under 200 grand a year. An accredited makes over 200 grand a year, or they have a net worth of $1 million. Now, why 200 grand? Hey man, you got me. Okay, you guys understand, if you make $199,970, you're non-accredited. If you make $30 more, they're like, yeah, you're good to go. You can do whatever you want. The game, to me, it is a completely rigged game. And it is rigged to benefit Wall Street. Wall Street does not want people investing $1,000 with me. And let me tell you why. Because the moment you put $1,000 into this piece of real estate, you become another myth. You become illiquid. Wall Street does not benefit by the American public being illiquid. Wall Street and banks want you guys as liquid as you can be. Because if you're liquid, they can get it. The moment you invested in that deal, money is out of the casino. They cannot rob you. They cannot get it. They cannot entice you. You cannot get tempted to buy any Bitcoin, Ethereum, ETFs, mutual funds. You can't buy any life insurance. The money's gone. It's in a real asset. Now, I like to be illiquid. I don't want to be liquid, because when you're liquid, you can get sued. When you're liquid, the FTC can just grab your accounts. When you have money in the bank account, guess what? It's hard to file bankruptcy and use the bankruptcy laws because you're liquid. So the wealthy know how to be illiquid. They do not trust cash. They want hard, real assets and partnerships that cannot be violated by laws and lawsuits. So non-accredited, under 200 grand, you can invest as little as $1,000. Accredited, when you go to become an accredited investor, your minimum investment on this asset is $100,000. We announced this Friday. On Friday, 4 o'clock in the afternoon, we've had $42 million come into this fund with no advertising, no broker fees, no middleman, and no banks.
Wow, incredible. And your goal is to raise $250 million?
We will raise, this is the first of 4 deals. We're going to raise 220 million, I think is the number for the fund, the 4 separate funds that will close out this year. This particular deal is a $75 million raise, some of which will come from accredited and some non-accredited. So in 5 days, we already hit half the number.
For the audience, tell us, what are the risks and liabilities of doing something like this, Grant?
Yeah, so the risk, I've been buying real estate for 35 years. I've never, ever lost money in a deal. 2008, 2010, 2001, COVID, never. I've never lost money on a deal. During COVID, we took 3 months and stopped the distributions to the investors because I was scared. On the 3rd month, we distributed the entire amount to our investors because there was nothing to worry about. Actually, our apartments performed better during COVID than before COVID. It was insane, but that was not what the newspaper said. So, I mean, I guess, Peter, I think you were going to ask a question, but there could be another extended COVID Delta experiment that could push people back to their homes. We did really good during COVID. There could be a flood at this property, I guess. They're worried about global warming. The coasts are going to go away. We are on the water on this one. We have insurance for that. Could be a hurricane. We're in Florida. Let's just look at all the possibilities.
Sure.
A massive Cat 6 hurricane come in. This concrete block, mid-rise structure, protected for class 5 hurricanes. I don't know if it'd withstand a 6 or not. But if a 6 took it down, we'd be covered by insurance. What else could happen? The economy could collapse. Economy goes to shit. Well, people are not going to be able to buy homes. They still got to live someplace. I don't know if they got to live there or not. The politicians in Miami could start acting like the ones in New York. I don't know if that's going to happen because they'd probably be shooting. But if it did, that would not be good. What's happening right now is the reverse. New York is sending renters down to Miami and Fort Lauderdale. So inflation could hit. Let's say massive inflation, hyperinflation hits. Well, actually, hyperinflation would help that building, not hurt it. And rents would go up, not down. Interest rates could skyrocket, possibly. I don't think there's any chance that can happen in America today because the federal government will have to tap out. So I've done all these calculations of all the possibilities. There's probably something I haven't considered, but every one of those scenarios destroys cash, destroys the stock market, destroys, you still need passive income, right? And we're in some very, very unpredictable times right now. This deal, Peter, I'm so confident in this deal. I bought it with my money. I close on it with my cash and my debt. I'm the one that signs on the loan. And we then allow the non-accredited investor or the accredited to invest with me after I close. So I'm sharing with my audience that I have complete confidence in this deal by putting my money where my mouth is.
Absolutely. So just to wrap it up and to be respectful of your time, Grant, tell us where can people reach you if they need more information about the non-accredited investors or accredited investors. Where can they reach you? And where can they get more information? Who do they need to contact?
Yeah, the website's cardonecapital.com. It's very easy. You click on cardonecapital.com. It'll show you the deal. It says invest. You can start with a grand. You can start with 5,000, 10,000, whatever you want. This deal will be oversubscribed. This is our 17th fund. I have been scrutinized by the SEC. I have been scrutinized by my own bank. The loan where we're getting this loan on this property, they've scrutinized the building, me, my operations. We have 200 employees right here in Aventura, Florida. You guys can always come to our office to see our operations. You can't fake real estate, Peter. You know?
Absolutely.
I can buy a model helicopter over there, but this is a recorded event. Okay, that's a real building, right? That's
absolutely.
You can see the address. You can't. That the thing about real estate, unlike the stock market and startups, tech startups, you just can't fake the concept. You know, that the woman that who's the woman that did the shot thing that she's in court right now for the blood thing, and it was a complete scam.
Sure. I know who you're talking to, the Silicon Valley lady. I raised yes. She raised billions of dollars. I can't remember her name. My apologies. Yeah.
She tricked a lot of people. Madoff tricked a lot of people.
Yeah.
Man. Tricked a lot of people. You know why? Because they were dealing with paper and ideas. This is not paper and this is not an idea. There's a address of a property, 456 units, 97% occupied today. AAA amenities, AAA location, 37 restaurants. It's cash flow positive the day we buy it. It's a very, very safe investment.
Absolutely. And I want to encourage my audience to participate in this. I never go out on the limb on stuff like this. I never endorse anything, Graham, but I have seen your career. We have a lot of mutual friends. Tim Story and I and yourself, we're connected. Tim is my partner in a movement that we're creating together. And this is right up the alley of some of the things that Tim and I are doing together. And we want to support you in any way that we can. And we want to encourage our community to be part of this monumental, for lack of a better word, opportunity to invest.
And Peter, let me just say, like my brother, sister, nieces, employees, Annie, my assistant, Sherry, Jared, people that work here in my office, same exact deal. You guys get the same exact deal everybody else gets. The accredited gets the same deal as the non-accredited, with one difference. Non-accredited, we distribute money every quarter. Accredited, when they do 100 grand or more, we distribute every month. And we don't do that. We just do that because some of these checks are small, $1,000. I'm only going to send a little bit out. So Lewis House, Tim Story, these friends of mine, they all invest with me. Like, my number one motivation in doing this is to help out the little guy. And I grew up a little guy. And people always tell you, man, don't forget where you came from. That's one part. Don't forget where you came from. The other thing is, if you get to a better, higher place in life, I think it's my responsibility, and anyone that actually makes it, to actually create vehicles so that other people can come up as well. And in our country at this time, the wealth gap in this country is so massive, and it's getting wider. Since the last 2 years, it got even wider. Despite what my lawyer said, don't do it, don't do it, and don't do it. I elected to do this because I believe this truly is a way for the marginalized communities in this country and the underserved and those of us who have been trapped for too long with misinformation. This gives them a vehicle to start investing and getting passive income, tax write-offs, appreciation, leverage, and finally to be able to put a trophy asset on their net worth statement that will grow with time.
Absolutely. What a great opportunity to begin the process of generational wealth in a secure asset. Grant Cardone, thank you so much. Look forward to working with you in the future.
Yeah,
Great
let's
to
do
meet
it, man. I appreciate you.